That's fine.
I don't know what time it is.
We have 1 minute. Oh. Gentlemen.
I looked on the wall. Okay.
I will now call the Monday, April 8th, 2024 meeting to order. Ms. Whitten, would you please?
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor Day. Here. Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Chair Ayers.
Here. We will now have a prayer for the board, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you'd like to join us, please stand.
Lord, I thank you for this time that we can come together and conduct our board meeting. I fail many times to thank you for the gifts that you have bestowed upon us. So many things that we take for granted, such as my health, the great nation that I live in, and even the food that I eat and drink. I know it all comes from you. Now I ask that you will guide us, give us wisdom, and help us make the right decisions that are the best for Rockbridge County. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizens' comments near the beginning of the meeting. We'll do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial in to one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. Changes to the agenda. We will be adding consideration of EDA appointments under appointments. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Citizens' comments. We will now welcome citizens' comments. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There's a timer on the table for your convenience. Is there anyone signed up?
Yes, we have Linda Larson.
Larson.
Or Larkin.
Larson. Mm-hmm.
My name is Linda Larson. My address is 5 Edmondson Avenue, Lexington, Virginia, but I also have a piece of property that I've rented for 35 years at 51 Island Lane in Rockbridge, Mass. So Lake Meriwether is a private recreational lake created when a high hazard dam was built in 1966. The lake is owned by the National Capital Area Council, BSA. It serves scout units from the Metro DC area and is not accessible to Rockbridge County residents. When the gates of the dam are open, tons of sediment are released into the Little Calf Pasture River, which end up in the Maury River, as you can see in this picture. It covers and chokes the small life forms on the bottom of the river, impairing the life cycle of the river. The pollution is detrimental to the river, landowners and residents downstream, and the wildlife of the area. The Maury is an economic asset, a recreational destination for local residents, and the source of drinking water for many county citizens. According to the DEQ report, it is the responsibility of local landowners and local governments to take actions necessary to improve the river. The Maury River Alliance, of which I am a member, wants to work with all parties to help the health and safety of the Maury River. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all who has signed up.
All right. Is there anyone online?
Oh.
And there's going to be a quorum at the Rockbridge as College Fire Station on the 16th.
The Zoom link.
The Zoom link, if you go to info.riverlights.org.
Okay, because you didn't, okay.
I forgot to send it to you. I don't know.
Info, okay, all right, thank you.
And Mr. Day said that we would Zoom link, if anyone who cannot make this forum.
Thank you. It's right here, then. It's right here. Two of them stuck together.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? If not, we will go on to the approval of the February 29th, 2024 Board of Supervisors and School Board Joint Meeting Minutes. We'll separate these two. I hope I have you all, do you have any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion, please, to approve them.
Which set of minutes are you wanting?
We're separating them, the February 29th, 2024 joint meeting is the first set.
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
was that Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Abstain.
And I vote yes. Next, the approval of the March 25th, 2024 work session and regular meeting minutes. Questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, Mr. McDaniel, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Next, consideration of the county appropriation resolution. Mr. Harrison.
Yes, before you is a resolution for this recent period. The total amount of bills this period is $1,131,493.15. Additional general fund appropriations total $561,436. Of that, the additional capital purchases fund appropriations total $512,000, and that's to enable the sheriff's office to issue purchase orders for vehicles expected to be delivered in FY25. And if that is approved, we'll remove it from the FY25 CIP. You might recall we did this not too many moons ago because of the delay in getting vehicles. They're so far behind. They want to put in advanced purchases. Included in your packet were the revenue and expense reports through March 31st. 75% of the fiscal year has passed. Our total revenues amount to $43,291,731. Year-to-date expenditures is $44,238,006, or a difference of minus $942,275. And that is, as you know, about this point of the year, the expenses will exceed revenues until we get our second half of our main source of revenue being real estate. 75% of the year has passed. Sales tax is right on track at 75%, or $3,178,164. Mills tax continues to excel. We're at $2,395,329, or 87%. And lodging taxes continues to be behind our estimated budget at $1,142,801. And again, included in your packet is both the chart and a spreadsheet showing your comparisons for those three taxes.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Harrison? Not, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consideration of Boxerwood event application. Mr. Suter.
Yes, ma'am. This is the first of two special event applications this evening. Ms. Emily Cole, Executive Director of Boxerwood, has submitted an application for outdoor events to hold outdoor music events per Chapter 4 Amusement and Entertainment, Section 2, outdoor entertainment events of the Rockbridge County Code. Property, as you know, is located at 963 Ross Road, Lexington. And this is an annual application that the board has approved in the past. And the fire safety and security plan has been reviewed and approved by Chief Ramsey and Sheriff Funkhauser. And the request is to approve the application that's in your package. Ms. Cole is in attendance via Zoom to answer any questions that the board might have.
Do you have any questions for Ms. Cole?
If no one has questions for me, I just want to add that we are hosting 6 concerts this summer, beginning at the end of May, going through September. Additionally, there is one October event, our somewhat annual pumpkin walk. And we're just really grateful for all of the ways that y'all support our work and enable us to serve this community.
Thank you. Questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the event application?
So moved.
Second,
No second.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Consideration of South River Volunteer Fire Department tractor truck pull event application. Mr. Suter.
Yes, you may recall that South River Volunteer Fire Department has sponsored tractor pulls for the past few years on Virginia Horse Center property that's leased to the county, and they do that as a fundraiser, annual fundraiser. The last one was held on May 6th of last year. They are again requesting to hold an event on May 4th this year and submitted an outdoor event application. And given that the grounds are within the area leased by the county on the for the tractor pull, this will require a lease agreement from the county. Both the application and the license agreement, I'm sorry, not a lease agreement, a license agreement. Both the application and the license agreement are attached for your review. The Virginia Horse Center has been consulted in the planning of this event and is in support. And as with Boxerwood, both Sheriff Funkhauser and Chief Ramsey have reviewed and approved the safety and security plan and signed a copy in the package. And as of posting, we did not yet have the required certificate of insurance, the COI, for this event. We have since received that. And so the request is to consider this, consider approval of this, and also consider approval of the license agreement, subject to Mr. Dryden's review of the certificate of insurance to make sure it meets everything that we need.
Okay.
And Assistant Chief John Jennings is with us tonight to answer any questions that you might have.
What up, Mr. Jennings?
One question while he's coming up. Are these events, and I guess the Boxerwood too, are they subject to admissions tax? That might be a question for our
Yeah,
attorney. If they are, I think
I believe they are.
we need to make sure they know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come as a surprise after the event's held.
It's, like I say, it's our biggest, probably our biggest event. It's kind of took over the carnival as far as fundraiser. So it's a good event.
Did I say 2,000 to 3,000 people? Is that
That's what we're shooting
right?
for.
No, I
That's
just want-
kind of COVID set us back. And then this will be a second one post COVID. And that's kind of what we had before all that hit. And that's what we're shooting for.
Mr. Jennings, is this the same week that you had it last year?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Is there, I had two people that live in the area and I know them, and they asked if there was any way that the date couldn't be set so that they know well in advance what weekend. They rent a house for Airbnb, and it's one of those things that you need to let people know so that they don't, they might want to attend, but they
Yeah,
might
I
not.
don't think so.
So is there any way that date could be set, or if will it always be the first
Well,
weekend in
we
May?
tried to push it, I know their concern and we tried to push it back with the sled, the Dragon Motorsports who has to do it for us. And it was the only time, that they basically had, to do it.
Okay,
And then the carnival runs in July, so it's just too much in that month. So it was just kind of the little narrow window that we had to do it. And I spoke with them last year and
Oh, so you know.
yes,
Okay.
and I'm gonna speak with them
If
again.
you-
I'm sure, I don't know how it'll go, but I mean, it's
Just,
Yeah.
they just want to know as much in
Right,
advance as
right.
possible. That's all.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I thought at one time, were you looking to relocate this over to behind the fire department somewhere?
yes, at one time we were, but that's just not gonna work. Yeah, we kind of just trashed that idea. Yeah, we just didn't have the room and it was kind of a bad idea. So.
All right. If there are any other questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve the event application?
So move.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Consideration of a resolution reaffirming the county's participation in a regional program to serve vulnerable youths. Mr.
So
Super.
this is kind of a continuance of the same thing you all approved last, I believe it's July or August. So for many years, the county's been part of this regional program to serve vulnerable youths. It's our local plan is known as the Lexington Combined VJCCA, Virginia Juvenile Community Control Act Plan. And the services that is provided by this program include jail diversion programs, electronic monitoring, courses to combat substance abuse, and other similar programs. So again, last summer, the board approved the resolution reaffirming participation in that program with Lexington as the fiscal agent, which they have been for a long time. Essentially, last year around this time, the Lexington was backing away from actually having the staff doing it. And the Commonwealth picked up the work, very kind of similar to our rental assistance program. And but Lexington would still be the fiscal agent, but they had to have a resolution from each of the participating localities. And now, so after that, the board approved that. Both Bath and Craig counties would like to join the group, which forces another resolution by all the participants to be able to do that. So this is kind of a housekeeping thing. In order to admit them, a new resolution is required, and it's in your package. Again, there is no cost to the county.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. Consideration of a resolution authorizing technical revisions to previously adopted ordinance in the land development regulations pertaining to car washes.
So,
Mr. Suter.
I'm gonna cover this for Mr. Slayton, who asked me to do that. Took his kids to a eclipse party, so didn't think you need to be here for this. So at the at the March 11th meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the zoning text amendment ordinance that's as defined and provided for car washes as a permanent use in the general business zoning district. In error, the Office of Community Development included two incorrect dates associated with the ordinance. In this case, there was a February 26, 2024 date associated with the definition and a February 12th, 2024 date associated with providing car washes as a permitted use in the B1 district. And there was also an incorrect ordinance section included. The purpose of this resolution is to correct the incorrect dates and the ordinance reference section. Everything else associated with the ordinance remains the same. So this is really a housekeeping item. The resolution in your package corrects those errors.
All right. Any questions? Not, is there a motion to adopt the proposed corrected resolution? Mr. Day, Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Ratification of operational medical director contract. Mr. Dryden.
So I think this has been one we've been working on for a little bit of time. Had some issues with drafting some of the language in the contract to make it acceptable to all parties. And we had a deadline that we had to meet because the previous OMD, Operational Medical Director, retired. He extended his time from January to, I guess, the beginning of March, but that's as far as he would go. So I had to retire. So we went ahead, drafted the language. We went ahead and had this signed by all parties with subject to ratification by the board. There was a bit of a hiccup in that it was sent, the contract that we had signed was sent to the Office of EMS at the Commonwealth level, and they wanted to have the names of the actual doctors in there, not the company with the doctors own to provide the service. So we revised that, put in the names, the proper names in there, and had everybody sign it. And so it's now been executed, but is the resolution before you makes it subject to ratification by the board. So if you don't ratify it, it won't be a contract.
Okay, well, let's take care of that. All right, if there are no questions, do I have a motion to adopt the proposed resolution? All right, Mr. Day. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. We will now move on to the budget review. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, the draft budget has been, was posted on the entire budget was posted on the board's agenda online. But physical copies, you have a copy of the memo, which I'll be using to highlight the budget. A copy of the summary page of the budget, which summarizes all the revenue and expenses, and also a summary of the departments. You also have copies of the capital funds and the debt service, it's not a fund. What I failed to provide, and I'll have that at the next meeting, is the ARPA fund. There's been no changes. The majority of that by far is reserved for the grant match funds for the VATI broadband grants. First, I would like to thank Supervisors Lewis and Lyons for their hard work and their commitment on getting balanced budgets together. The meetings have been very productive. I also like to thank Mr. Suter for his leadership and keeping things on track and working with all the department heads and constitutional officers. Starting with revenues, the Finance Committee recommends no change to the current real estate rate of 61 cents at this time. Based on current real estate valuations, real estate taxes are expected to increase $245,855. And at current valuations, 1 cent generates about $322,000 in revenue. Personal property tax. It is recommended that the personal property stays at 425. This is 24 calendar year 24. This is the last year for the differentiation between vehicles and like business personal property. So the recommendation is to lower the business personal property from 450 to 425. And to set the personal property tax relief at 27%, which would exceed the Commonwealth's tax relief by 80,609. If those changes are accepted, our revenue from personal property taxes would increase $290,853. That's including with the decrease in revenue from the business personal property. And based on a 27% tax relief, 1 cent would generate $18,317. No changes are recommended to the machinery and tools tax at 255. Emissions tax, as the board is very well aware, it's gone through multiple changes in the past several years. Without 5 years of consistent revenue, it's hard to predict, forecast those revenues. But we are budgeting 350,000, which is a $125,000 increase over FY24. Sales tax, we're increasing it by 207,892. Mills tax to increase by $605,580. As you've been watching every month, including today, those mills taxes continue to exceed expectations. In lodging taxes, we are expecting a decrease of 25,720. And again, you've been monitoring that, and it's been just hasn't been all that good. Hasn't been bad, but it just hasn't been as good as sales and mills tax. Interest on investments, we budgeted $1 million or 150,000 more than FY24, and I'm sure you all watch the news. It's always a guessing game what the Fed is going to do with the interest rates. The EMS recovery revenue, we are estimating an increase of 75,000, so we're budgeting 450,000 for FY25. State revenue increasing by $272,000, and that's mostly as a result of increased revenue from the state compensation board. A big portion of this budget on the expense side, but it's also on the revenue side, is reserves for capital projects. You may recall some time ago, reported that working with the finance committee, we implemented an objective of the board, and that is setting aside money for capital from our unassigned reserves. The finance committee has done that, and so we have in our assigned reserves the entire amount of the FY25 through 29 CIP. But this budget includes $1,281,475 for the county's 25 through 29 CIP, $552,796 for our share of capital outlay for the regional jail. And the big one, as you're aware, is the Rockbridge Elementary School HVAC project, and that's $3.3 million. And 990,000 or 30% is expected to be refunded in the form of energy tax credits once the project is completed. And we're working with Waterford Moss, our accountants, and we'll begin registering that at the start of the fiscal year, July 1, and the school has been working with Train on those bills coming in after the fiscal year.
Mr. Harrison, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Are you able to entertain questions?
Oh, yes, please.
Remind me, it slipped my mind, the Rockbridge Regional Jail capital outlay, what is that?
I can speak to that a little bit better. They've got a capital improvement plan out there that part of that CIP was the jail study that we've done. It's got another piece to it. There's some other things out in there that we can't afford to not correct. For example, we've got some door issues out there, some locking mechanisms on those types of things. And there's stuff like, boilers, that type of thing that we have to keep going until we find a regional solution.
Is that an increase or
That's the total budget. So the increase would be
Increase from what?
it's a $308,196 increase over the current fiscal year's capital share of capital.
But keeping in mind, it's looking out too. We're shifting that money into place. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get spent, but we're reserving it in that fund. One
of the things that's been discussed is moving and Mr. Suter has, just as of today, I believe, just confirmed this with the school superintendent. They currently, in their budget that was presented to us and at the last work session, joint work session, they had put in, they need 4 buses, but they had only budgeted for 3. To remove that from the school's operating budget and put it and fund that out of capital, go ahead and fund, but the finance committee recommends funding the 4 buses that are needed. So that's 560,000. But that reduces the contribution to the school's operating budget. The finance committee agreed with the school division's request for gym bleachers in the amount of 262,000, and the school division's request to upgrade their, replace their fire panels at $150,000. And there is a possibility this project may be funded in FY24. So the total for capital is $6,106,271. And I just want to mention as with assigning more money to capital reserves, that's going to show a reduction in the amount or fund balance or unassigned reserves, but we'll still be above the minimum 20% reserve policy adopted by the board.
What is that number?
Uh,
What would that number be? Above 20?
Yes, I can get you that.
If you just want to give me the current fund balance, then I can. do
Yes,
the
I know.
math.
That's a good question, and I have that number for you.
While he's looking for that number, I can jump back to the jail. I just pulled this up.
Oh, I have it.
I can give you the $100,000 is the continued, and not that necessarily this will be spent, but joint needs assessment for the Rockbridge Regional Jail. That's $140,000 for replacement of boiler. 10,000, and this is the total cost. It's not our share. Ours is about 61% of this. $10,000 for tree removal inside the security fence. We've already removed the trees along the interstate in our portion, the county's portion at the maintenance garage. The rest of it needs to be removed, and that's jail cost. So there's regional sharing. A JMS module upgrade. That's I forget acronym. I forget what the acronym, but they had to have an upgrade. I think might have something to do with the door controls. There's $26,000 in air duct work. And the biggest part of it was $700,000 security door restoration. And we don't know if it's going to cost that much, but that's what the estimate was. And so of that total, our part is $552,796.
When is it? Is all that scheduled for FY25?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to correct. I told you it was looking out. That's not necessarily looking all the way out. That is scheduled for next year.
Is it $700,000 for doors? I understand they need to be secured, but does every door have to be replaced? I mean, if we're looking at some point about doing something differently, why would we sink money into security doors if they're don't have to be replaced right now?
We've asked those questions, and it's not a good situation right now as far as the doors.
Fair enough.
Can explain more, but they need to be operational, and they have been nursed along as best we could for a long time.
When did we find out the doors about the door?
When the jail commission did, it hasn't been, it's been in the last couple of years, but the situation has gotten worse to my understanding. And we're hoping to have a determination of what we're going to do. And that's, we were initially, as you know, we were looking at potentially working with Allegheny County and Covington. And as of, I don't know, back in, I don't know, the early fall, Bath or Covington and Allegheny determined that that was not something that they were going to be able to do a regional solution. So then they started working on the potential to have an expansion on site there and potential to reuse some of this stuff maybe. But actually to use another portion, essentially the lot that we rent to Randy Hossetter excavating now as expansion. But then they had to go back and do it. You know, I'm getting into the weeds now, but I think it's important that you know they had to go back. They hadn't taken into account that if we're looking at that without Allegheny and Covington, we were going to have to do something different and do a space needs assessment for the existing sheriff's department as well. And that's what Mosley Architect's working on now.
Yeah, I would just ask that, you know, if it ain't broke, don't be replacing it right now until we decide what we're going to do.
Preaching to the choir when we talk at jail commission. Yes.
Mr. Harrison, you had something else for us?
Yes, based on the current FY25 budget, our 20% unassigned reserve balance minimum would be $16,237,526. As of February 28th of this year, we have $17,546,735 in reserves. And of course, hopefully we'll achieve another surplus this year, which will add to that. And the 990,000, when that's reimbursed, will be added to that. So our unassigned reserve balance based on the FY25 budget as of February 28th is 21.61%. It's going to increase. This budget calls for a 5% raise for county employees and a 3% raise for constitutional officers and their employees. Just as a reminder, the constitutional officers and their employees received a 2% raise on December 1st. So the 5% raise for the county is to bring them comparable to the constitutional officers. Health insurance, some positive changes are coming to health insurance, but we're recommending it stay unchanged at this time, and we're budgeting $9,900 per employee, and that includes the HSA contributions. And just as a reminder, that $9,900 is an average. Some employees cost more, but that's how we average it out to $9,900. So we're not expecting a change.
If I can jump in there too. Essentially, last week we finally got the proposals back, and our existing provider, Cigna, I think was 7 or 9% increase, but we took our focus off that pretty quickly when Anthem came in, actually a little below our current, and we got that in time to show it to the finance committee. And Anthem, we had good experience with Anthem last time we were with them, and our recommendation is just to keep that level because we, in our self-funded pool, any additional savings that we have, we can put towards that pool for bad years. But our recommendation is to go that route, and that is with a maximum family plan for the high deductible plan of $200, which would be some significant savings to employees. I just ran some numbers. For example, an employee plus family right today pays $379 per month. This would drop it to $200 for $179 savings. Employee plus children is also $379 per month. The proposal would be $200. I'm sorry, $140 per month for $239 monthly savings. Employee plus spouse would be 116. Employee plus child would be 103. Those are savings per month, and that's what we'd like to recommend. We'd like to start moving in that direction if the board is agreeable to that.
Additional employees. This budget has 3 additional fire and rescue captains. And the finance committee has recommended one of those positions be funded by the EMS recovery revenue. And it also includes 2 additional park and rec crew members and subsequent wage adjustments for the existing employees. So the total cost of the fire and rescue captains is $327,000 and $118,000 for the parks and rec and changes wage adjustments.
Is the 327, is that for 3 positions?
3 new positions, correct?
But one of them to be funded out of the recovery. So what is the impact of our budget?
It's actually 327, but it just depends on where it comes from.
Okay. So 1/3 of that is showing up in the on the revenue side as far as an increase from the EMS recovery fee.
So you're showing that on the, okay.
280.
The finance committee recommends contributions to nonprofits remain level with FY24. With that said, there's some changes. One is our contracted contribution to the SPCA has increased $42,760. Our mandated contribution to the state health department is $17,664. Mandated increases to the Rockbridge Area Community Services Board, $23,906. Contribution to DSS, $18,217. Contribution to RARO has increased $40,880. And the finance committee recommends an increase of $65,418 or 11.3% to the Rockbridge Regional Library. The discussion around that matches Lexington is their increase. It doesn't satisfy their request to make up for 5 lost years. That was in the discussion with the finance committee, that was a little bit too much to bite off at one time, but did recommend an increase to matching with Lexington. Now, the city of Buena Vista is contributing more, but I believe that's because as far as percentage, because of their efforts to reopen their library. Is that?
That's correct. They like to increase their hours that were cut when they cut funding a few years ago.
So is it just are they just increasing? Are they catching up where they cut funding?
Yes, that's I think they're trying to catch up.
Some other significant changes with the general funds budget is police services. And this one, it's the repairs, tires, and parts line item. A significant increase, $117,726 to that. Now, some of that will be returned in the form of billing other departments, and we try to account for that on the revenue side. But it does affect us all, whether it's the schools or the counties. Those parts are just getting very expensive. And budgeting a $73,000 increase to gas, oil, and diesel. Rental assistance, since it's no longer a county department, we're looking, but it is still active and is just being managed by Virginia Housing. But that's a decrease of $103,075 to our budget.
Is the gas, oil and diesel, is that the bulk product for our vehicles or what is that?
Yes, that's that's the fuel pumps at the at police services. What we
When-
buy, the bulk.
Yeah.
Yes.
When was the last time that we put that out to bid?
Oh, that's gone out just, or it's about to go out, or has already. So we'll be bringing that back to the board here.
We do that every year, don't we?
Yes, we do that every year.
Is that annual? I could-
Yes.
Because it changes so much.
Now we get into the school division. Already mentioned the buses. Just as a reminder, they had budgeted 3 buses, though they need 4. And the finance committee would like to keep them on track, and so has funded 4 additional buses. But paying for that from capital. And they had originally budgeted 20% increase in their health insurance, or 600,000. We received confirmation, or Mr. Suter has received confirmation from the school superintendent today that we're safe to remove 300,000 from their budget request, based on that amount. So that's not reflected in the current budget gap of like 801,000, but we could remove 300,000 right off the bat today if the board is amenable to that. And again, Mr. Suter confirmed that with the school superintendent today.
I talked to Dr. Thompson today, and of course, we just got this information late last week. And I hadn't been able to talk to him, so I wanted to confirm with him that just didn't want to just remove it. So he said that was perfectly fine. They were budgeting a 20% increase. It came back 10. So the original request was $600,000 additional, so 300. He was fine taking that out, which would leave us as we stand right now at 510,128.
And in our last discussion with the finance committee is, they're in the normal exchange between committee members. Both of them were agreeing that without a state budget, we're kind of what ifing everything and just spinning our wheels on how to make up that 510, or what we should budget for the school in terms of the local contribution to namely raises. It's our understanding also, as I mentioned at the joint meeting, a 1% reduction in the VRS contributions. But the General Assembly hasn't accepted BRS's recommendation, because that's part of the budget adoption
So
process as well.
this budget does not reflect the possible 1% decrease in VRS.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that amount is, I'm gonna,
29.
so I'll pull up their handout from,
230 or 225.
yeah, it was 225,000. Let me pull it.
So that gap or the school's request, I know at one time they were talking about raise and potential bonus, but without knowing the General Assembly, what they'll come out with. I mean, is that been removed or is it still in there? What?
It's still in there. So the reduction in VRS, the 1% reduction, if that was accepted by the General Assembly, that would be 225,000. And they did put their 1% bonus, what the governor had in his budget, and that was 229,950. And I'll pull up the
Stop share and then reshare.
oh, thank you. So going back to the schools budget,
Might have to zoom in on that too.
can everyone see that? So yes, currently that $225,000 bonus is in the current budget as it stands before you. And they didn't have a dollar amount at that time, but we got that later. So a 1% reduction again is 200 and
29.
yes.
So those together would give us.
Yes, and I'm sure Mr. Suter and I could find, if those two items were removed from the budget tonight, I'm confident Mr. Suter and I could find in the budget the difference to recommend to the finance.
Yeah, okay. Well, there are other movements at play, obviously, from the state. As most people know, I'm sure the governor released his thoughts today. So I'm not ready to take any more out yet till we know till we figure on that. But what I would say is that it seems like we're heading in the right direction, fortunately.
I think what Mr. Harrison was saying hypothetically, if,
Okay, yes.
the board was to take action tonight, but that's not what's being requested.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, there's more work to do, but yeah.
that has not been removed from the budget at this point.
Right, because the state might contribute to pay raises too. And
Correct.
currently, there's money in that where the county's funding a 4% raise on their own.
Correct.
So,
That's what I'm hoping for is
Right.
some assistance from the Commonwealth.
as we get assistance from the Commonwealth, it won't be supplanting, but it should free up some local money to remove from the budget.
So I don't want to get too far into the budget schedule, but we're kind of hoping that we would, and that's positive news that it's moving a little bit faster than what we were expecting.
And it's still not formal. I mean, we're not going to have a formal number from the state, but we will have more thoughts on direction for the decision we'll have to make.
Which we're jumping ahead here, but I mean, it's a good segue right into the schedule. Our idea would be is if I think schools are okay removing the 300, which puts us at basically 510 now. And to go back to have another finance committee meeting sometime, hopefully later this week. And then our goal right now on the schedule is to adopt a budget on May 13th. Okay, if you're backing that up, we would, I'm trying to get my dates messed up, have a budget public hearing on, I believe, May the 6th, Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in order to do that, you would need to advertise a budget on April 24th.
Which means I have to get to them by the 23rd.
23rd. So what I'm backing into there is that the finance committee could meet, make some decisions to recommend to the full board. You could meet one day next week, have a special meeting, board meeting, or you could wait until your regular meeting on the 22nd. The only issue is if you wait till the 22nd, in order to stay on schedule, you'd have to leave that meeting agreed on a budget to publish. And of course, Ashton, it's no small feat putting that ad together. So he'd have to have it pretty well laid out and ready to go to get to the paper by 10 o'clock the next day on Tuesday. So it just depends on whether or not the board is confident enough to wait until that night, or if you want to have a special
We
meeting.
could have a work session too.
You have a work
We
session
could
prior.
have the work
certainly.
session at 4:30. As
Right,
well.
and
Right.
that's perfectly good idea. My point is that we wouldn't have time if the board wanted us to go back and get some
You won't
other
have time to
information
make a
for
lot of
another day,
Mhm.
and come back to the board again. We wouldn't be able to stay on that schedule. And the only day that,
Can you, when we approve the budget, we advertise the budget and approve, and no changes are ever made. It is to those.
you can make changes after the public hearing to the budget, but you can't increase the tax rate after the,
Exactly.
you can,
But
you
you
could
can make
reduce it.
changes to the budget.
Yes.
Right. You can make changes to the budget. You just can't increase the tax rate. The advertised tax rate.
60, yes. Pay for it.
But with the proposed recommendations, and thank you to the finance committee for doing this. With no changes to the real estate tax and changes to the personal property tax, you pretty much know the numbers you're working with revenue wise. It's just fitting in the expenditures to that revenue ceiling. I mean, you know,
except for the state revenues, and it will either get them or we'll make a educated guess and do what we have to do to make sure it balances.
There's a added confidence with another finance committee. They can reach an agreement on that $500,000, a recommendation to the full board on that gap without raising taxes, I believe, is my assumption through this. But they don't want to get over guess either. I guess. But hopefully we have a better idea by the end of this week. We have a finance committee meeting either Friday or Monday.
So gentlemen, I guess with that, do you feel confident that with the finance work that we're not going to raise taxes, that if we add a work session, do you want another meeting? I guess, do we want another meeting next week on Wednesday? Or do you feel comfortable we can take care of everything we need to take care of at our work session, at 4:30?
Madam Chair, I believe there's a work session already scheduled on the 22nd with BDOT, the 6-year plan. Thank you, Brandy.
Can we move that? Can we have a double work session?
You could have a discussion. The VDOT work session usually takes about half an hour.
So we have some options there. What would you all like to do? We do have an advertising deadline. So if we do want that additional meeting, we need to deal with that by tomorrow, correct?
And the only day, I will say, I think the only day available that week is in fact that Wednesday. That
I can't do that.
And we certainly need the finance committee.
But the board could.
Well, we will have
No,
a
no,
balanced
we need
budget to present to you. I'm positive of that.
when is
The only question will be if you don't like the balanced budget. So if, then we wouldn't have time to keep the current schedule. So if you tell us you have to have a balanced budget earlier, that you want to get into it and make changes, you just have to tell us that, and we'll have one to you earlier. And then you can tell us what you don't like about it and what you want to see changed.
when is your next finance committee meeting?
It'll be either later this week or beginning of next week. As soon as we can get our calendars together for Mr. Lewis leaves tonight.
You keep looking at me. I'm not one to want to schedule more meetings.
But that's,
Well,
I'm
let
not
me say
sure-
this too. The General Assembly doesn't go back till Wednesday, so we're not going to have any more information from the place we need it from.
True, but I mean, I don't think we can delay
because of the state either. I mean, if
We
we
can-
need, if we have to
I'm
make
just saying, I
changes
don't know
afterwards.
that what their point is in having that other meeting.
Yeah, and to me, if the finance committee is going to meet later this week or the very,
For next week.
you know, if the finance committee can come out of that meeting with a balanced budget to present to the rest of the board members, and that gives us 3 or 4 days to get back to you for something we don't like or something we want changed prior to the meeting. I mean, that on the 22nd. Seems to be a confidence level that we'll be able to
I
obtain.
guarantee we'll have a balanced budget one way or another. It's just
You may
that-
not like it, but it'll be.
I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do, but it'll be balanced. Our expenditures will meet our revenues, and sometimes it'd be nice if we had a lot of revenues and you could give a little more to spend, but if you don't have enough revenues, then it's pretty simple. You cut expenditures. And I think we're willing to do that if we have to. But it'll be balanced, then but it will get out to you and you have to say, oh, well, we don't want to cut that much. Well, then if you don't want to cut expenditures, you got to increase revenues, and there's only one way to do that, and that's increase taxes. And I, for one, am not in favor of that, and that's why I think we can do the job we've been assigned.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of that either. I mean, you know, with inflation and the prices and stuff, I mean, it's just, I think it's too much to ask of our citizens.
So I guess what I'm saying, if the board just says, bring us a balanced budget, we don't want taxes increased, we will do that. But then don't change your mind.
Well, I mean, you have given a couple of options. I assume that you mentioned the two things that we can take out of this budget because they're below.
Potentially, you can
They're
always take more other places.
Well, I
so.
mean, I'm just saying, you have some options, right?
And it
so
wouldn't all
we're-
be on the schools. I should, yeah, we'd look at the counties, places to cut in the counties' budgets. as
And
well.
is there any possibility that the state comes back and hurts us, that we don't know yet?
There's always,
That-
There's always that chance.
No,
But
that's-
at the
we
end of the
laugh,
day,
but
that's
it's
why you have
true.
reserves as well. I mean, if you need to supplement the budget for 1 year because of that, then that's what you do.
so
I
maybe
am
plan a
fine
work
with meeting
session.
early on the 22nd. That would work for me. If everybody's 4:30, we'll see whether or not we can move that or have a half an hour update. And if you have any concerns, please get those concerns to the finance committee, or questions, concerns, ideas earlier. The earlier the better. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for doing the heavy lift on the finance committee. Thank you.
And just as a note, we will be recommending that no, need to be done by resolution at the same time we adopt the budget, is extending the tax due date to June 21st to give both Ms. Weitzel and mainly our citizens enough time to pay their taxes to get the tax notice out and have a good couple weeks.
That's fine. All right.
Well, I think you all generally taken care of the last, the next agenda item.
Yes, we jumped right in, didn't
But
we?
well, no, we,
It was hard. We
Do we need
debated
any
whether
other-
they should be two separate.
Okay.
um,
What else? What other things do we have to answer
well,
on
I
that?
just want to make sure if everybody's okay with consensus with moving ahead with what I've shared with
Yeah.
the health benefits. We will move
Oh,
ahead with that
it'll come
unless
out.
there's
We'll still have it on the agenda.
any issue with that, because we've got other agencies that depend on this as well, and there could be some budget
Sure,
reductions from some of these other agencies coming in to help us close this gap.
sounds good.
And my understanding is we're not adding a meeting. So we will republish the budget schedule, which I don't think is going to change at this point, is it?
That's correct.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't just go ahead and move the tax due date, or is there a reason why it needs to be done when the budget's adopted?
I think it can be done at any time.
We can.
You just have to state, I think you just have to state the reason why, you have to justify why you're extending the due date.
which is a pretty broad.
But if the taxes are the same, why are,
No,
well, I thought we're not raising taxes, so I'm not,
you're right. Yeah,
so there are no changes. Well, although
just
the
the due date.
business tax is dropping, the business personal property, right?
Correct.
It's
So that
just-
will be different.
Correct.
The main reason is for billing, to allow
Yeah.
our department to bill the tax receipts. And there's a considerable number of people that don't think about taxes until they get that bill. And if you only give them a week or two to pay it, it can create a hardship. Whereas if you give them 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a couple paychecks, they can.
They have more time to
Yeah.
complain.
Okay.
Yeah, the tax rate, none of that matters. The fact of the matter is in state code that June the 5th is taxes are due. But a locality can extend that tax date, I think, up until the end of June. But you got to do it by resolution, and I think it's got to state the reason.
So have we given you everything you need?
I think so.
Then we will move on to appointments. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes, Madam Chair. Have 2 appointments that are coming up for the EDA that happen to reside in my district. Ms. Ann Herring is looking or would like to be reappointed for another 4-year term. And I'd like to make that recommendation to the board to reappoint Ms. Herring.
All right. Do we have a
Second.
second? All right. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes.
I do have some
Madam Chairman,
comments.
can I interject on the budget schedule? The published budget schedule will change.
Okay.
Because today was supposed to, was the original date to set the public hearing. So there will be a change. And we'll get that, based on the discussion the board had, we'll get that updated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brandy.
On appointments, know both of these candidates and appreciate and support them. I do think it's important that the board have a chance to think about that more than just an hour. And also certainly for boards and commissions that aren't codified, defined by district. I know I certainly advocate for that, and we always try to have boards be represented from somebody, at least somebody from each district. But I just, in the future, I just appreciate a little more time on the consideration of the appointments.
Appreciate
Well,
your
I mean,
concern,
we're-
Mr. Lewis. I haven't said that. I'd like to make, I also have another opening on the EDA that is,
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily Natural Bridge in this case, right? If the previous member happened. to be
I
there.
believe Ms. Herring is the at-large. And the other position would be the Natural Bridge.
I don't think we have an at-large. I thought they were all at-large, and we just decided to make sure there was
And
at
I think
least
that's a very
one
good policy.
represented.
I'm not saying
Right.
that we would not have, district representation, certainly. But anyway,
But there's also another opening on the EDA. And Mr. Powell has served in that capacity for a number of years and certainly appreciate all that he has brought to that board. I spoke with Mr. Powell and we feel like that there was other applicants and maybe it's time to move in a different direction there. And certainly would like to keep Mr. Powell in mind for any other boards openings that may come up that would require someone from my district. But at this time for the EDA, I'd like to recommend Mr. Steve Flint to be appointed to the EDA to serve a 4-year term.
second.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Monthly staff reports. No action. Let's see. So we don't have to have anything on that one. Board comments. Are there any board comments or committee updates? Anything? I haven't
Do
skipped
we need
something.
to approve that?
We normally.
Just, you have in the past.
But we don't, it's not a requirement?
I don't think it's. a
Do we,
requirement.
do we have to? I'd like to streamline it a little bit. Is that all right, Mr. Dryden? Do I have to have, okay.
I think it was done by tradition, but it doesn't.
I don't want to break tradition
It
if
does not
that,
have to.
if that bothers you. Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, board comments or committee updates? All right, if not, we will go into closed session as permitted by Virginia Code. Did I read this? Mr. Suter,
Someone needs to make that motion.
I do not have a piece of paper. If I'm supposed to have it, you do. Go ahead.
I'd like to move that we go into closed session as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8, a matter involving consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the county regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel regarding an identified legal liability issue pertaining to the county.
All right.
Some motion to go into. I'll second.
All right, Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. And I vote yes. Thank you all.
But we don't expect any action to be taken.
No, no action to be taken.
I'm going to. Okay, you're back. I move that the board certify that the closed meeting just concluded to the best of each member's knowledge. Nothing was heard, discussed, or considered except the matter or matters specifically identified to the motion to convene in the closed session and lawfully permitted to be so discussed as exempt from open meeting requirements under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in the motion.
Okay, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. I vote yes. So that would conclude our meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. And I vote yes. Thank you.